Welcome to Roughing It with Ruth, the channel where everything is a bit rough around the edges. After we came back from our Namibia trip, I compiled a list of tips that I would tell myself if I went to Namibia again. The very first one is that if you are traveling over a land border, then definitely check what time the border opens and closes. Some borders are also closed during the COVID pandemic. You also want to bank quite a bit of time for getting through the border. When we went into Namibia, it was relatively painless and we managed to get through all the way in about an hour and a half. But when we came back, there was a COVID case at one of the border crossings, and we ended up spending at least 4.5 hours going through the border. Another thing that is really important in Namibia is sunscreen, a hat, and sunglasses. The sun is very, very intense, and you don't want to spend your entire trip being unhappy with sunburn. Something that was pretty weird to me was that in many places in Namibia and even in South Africa, in the Northern Cape close to the Namibian border, you had to pay to use the toilet. This was at gas stations and at a lot of the shopping centers as well. Generally, the going rate was 2 Rand or 2 Namibian dollars. The fuel in Namibia was a bit cheaper than in South Africa, which means that if you're traveling around by car, then your trip expenses might be a little bit less than if you were traveling around South Africa. Camping was generally very affordable, so if you're looking for a budget accommodation option, then definitely check out Namibian campsites. But there are lots of other accommodation options, including very expensive hotels. Check that the accommodation or camping that you're booking is close to the attractions that you actually want to go and see and is in a nice location. I also highly recommend building in some kind of a break in your trip. Whether this is just having a few days where you don't plan to go anywhere, or staying in some sort of hotel instead of camping, if that's what you're doing for most of your trip, having a bit of a break is very nice. You do get tired from traveling and you do get tired of setting up and taking down your tent. So have some sort of little vacation within a vacation. Definitely remember to take repair stuff with you if you are doing some sort of overlanding or camping trip. We used our duct tape and cable ties and multi-tools quite a lot. You also definitely want to make sure that you have spares for your car, including spare tires, because some of the roads in Namibia are extremely remote and some of them don't have any cell phone reception either. Another thing that I found really useful was to ask the locals about various attractions and routes that you're planning to drive. They often have the most up-to-date information, and sometimes they'll be able to tell you about lesser known places or routes that are really scenic as opposed to the general highway routes that most people travel. I also highly recommend taking mosquito repellent with you. Namibia is a malaria area, so if you're particularly worried about that, you may want to take some sort of prophylactic treatment as well. I really don't like taking that malaria medication. It makes me feel super weird. So I just take a lot of mosquito repellent. Something that we found very useful was to buy a MTC SIM card and put that in our phones so that we had some data and SMSs just for staying in contact with each other in Namibia and family back home. You don't actually need a 4x4 vehicle to travel to Namibia. There are many roads that it is absolutely fine to drive on with a regular car, but there are a lot of Namibian roads that are gravel roads, and some of them do require 4x4. So just when you're planning the places that you want to go to, make sure that you are able to get there in the vehicle that you will be driving. A lot of the shops and accommodation places in Namibia did accept credit cards, but there were one or two that were a little bit more remote that only accepted cash. So I would definitely have a bit of cash on hand. And a lot of places did not have a tap option on their card machines. So you would not be able to pay with like Apple Pay or Garmin Pay or Samsung Pay or anything like that. You needed to actually insert a physical credit card into the machine in order to pay. A lot of the national parks in Namibia also do not allow any plastic bags. and some of them will actually search your car before you go in. So if you are planning to stay in a national park or visit a national park, then just make sure that you do not have plastic bags with you when you go in. This is something that I discovered when we went to Sossusvlei and Dooievlei, and that was you definitely should not wear sandals in deep sand. If you get to the location fairly early in the morning, then the sand is still cool from nighttime. But as the day heats up, the sand gets blisteringly hot to the point where it can actually burn your bare skin. And then you really just can't walk around with sandals. It's impossible because the sand will flow in around your foot and burn your foot. So take closed shoes if you are planning to go to an area with deep sand. Another thing that you should definitely do is check the opening and closing times of the attractions that you want to visit around holiday periods. So things like Christmas and New Year, any public holidays that Namibia may have, just make sure that the place that you want to go and see is actually open when you want to go and see it. My final tip is that in summer, you should definitely take lightweight, breathable clothing for during the daytime because it is very, very hot. But we had quite a lot of very windy evenings, and it did actually get quite cold from the wind chill. So maybe just take at least one jacket or jersey, some sort of warm outfit and long pants with you for the evenings, even in summer. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more from me, then you can click on my channel name to see videos that I've made in the past, or you can subscribe to my channel to see videos that I'm going to make in the future.